So if anybody happens to be in Toronto, we're going to try to meet up for dinner tomorrow at a pub called Sin and Redemption. So we'll put up those details in the chat. And if you would like to attend the Angelica Das talk on Thursday, you need to register separately. It's a different Zoom link for that. And for recordings, we will let you know. We're going to post them on our website. And they will be accessed through a password. So we'll let you know when that's all ready at the end of today or first thing tomorrow. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, Maggie Maggio. She is going to introduce our keynote speaker for this afternoon, Rob DeSalle from the American Museum of Natural History. So Maggie, take it away.
Yeah, good day to everyone, wherever you are in the world. I'm thrilled to be able to introduce Rob DeSalle as the next keynote speaker. I met Rob last year, I think it was last fall, right, Rob? When I was in New York to visit my niece. She's a painting student at Sarah Lawrence College. Avila and I love color, and we went together to see the Nature of Color show that Rob curated for the American Museum of History. On the day we had tickets, Rob very graciously met us at the entrance to the museum, took us up to his absolutely amazing office where he's sitting right now to talk about our shared fascination with the subject of color. And then he gave us a personal tour of the exhibit. It was the first time Avila, the art student, had the chance to explore the science of color, and her eyes were opened wide by Rob's down-to-earth explanations of each exhibit. So thank you, Rob, for that. Avila's off to Italy for a year. I don't think she'll ever forget the chameleon or that lizard that we could not find in the exhibit. Rob is a curator at the American Museum of Natural History, working in comparative genomics. He is also a professor at the museum's Richard Gilder Graduate School and has been adjunct professor at New York University, Columbia University, City University of New York, and Yale University. He recently received a Fulbright professorship to work in Australia and a von Humboldt fellowship for work in Germany. His scientific work at the museum is complemented by exhibition outreach, for which he has curated a permanent hall on human evolution and 7 temporary exhibitions, including Brain, the Inside Story, Our Senses, and the recent exhibit at the Museum of Natural History, The Nature of Color. Rob has written over 20 books, including Our Senses, Yale Press, Troublesome Inheritance, Columbia University Press, and A Natural History of Color from Pegasus Books. He lives in the East Village of New York City with his wife and son, and the title of his talk today, Sensing Color in Nature. I want to welcome Rob.
Gosh, thank you for that amazing introduction. I need to be able to share my screen, and I think I can do that. Does everybody see my screen?
Not yet.
Not
no.
Yet. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. When I was asked to do this talk, I was a little worried because I'm not a real color person. At least I thought I wasn't. And it turns out, though, that color is a major evolutionary interest, and you can't really do evolutionary biology without considering color. And as Maggie pointed out, I was asked to curate an exhibition on color and had to crash educate myself on color. So what I want to do today is talk about a natural history of color. And when I think about color, there are 4 major themes that I think of. And the first theme involves examining what color is on the physical chemical level. The second theme in natural history involves looking at the biochemical and neurobiological levels of light and light detection in organisms. They're amazing natural inventions that organisms have done to detect light and to detect color. The third theme concerns color in nature and how colors are used by organisms to expand the information they receive from their surroundings. How organisms on our planet diversified is largely a story of color. Adaptation and natural selection have shaped the way color is distributed in plants and animals on our planet, and it's very tightly complex with our general impression of our planet in an evolutionary context.
Hey,
The final
Rob,
theme,
can
the
you
final theme,
can you go to full screen?
am I in? Oh gosh,
There.
is that okay? Or are you seeing?
No.
You're probably seeing my screen. Okay, let me
Yeah, exactly.
do this. Very sorry. There we go. There we go.
That's good. Thanks.
Okay. Now I don't have my notes, but that's okay. This is a general outline of how color vision works. I mean, everybody knows this. You have light waves. They're picked up by, at least in humans and in invertebrates, they're picked up by cone cells. The cone cells send a message to the brain as to what light wave they've detected, and we see color. So I want to present 4 little vignettes about the natural history of color and about how the natural history of color works. And the first one, as I pointed out, the first vignette will be about the physical aspects of color. And one of the things that we learn from the physical aspects of color is where the light waves come from. And this can be thought about as from this really nice thought experiment done by Christopher Anderson and colleagues about how bright was the Big Bang. And to look at this question, they placed a human eye back at the Big Bang, and they then ran the Big Bang from time 0. And what they found is that the early universe prior to the Big, or just after the Big Bang, these are years at the top, there was this fuzzy plasma-like brightness in the universe. That was followed by recombination and then darkness. And there was about 7 to 150 million years of absolute darkness. And after about 10 to the 7th, 10 to the 8th years, stars started to form. And that eye that they use in their little thought experiment starts to see stars and starts to see the formation of the first stars and the first galaxies. And these, of course, are going to have color. So the first emergence of light waves and of specific light waves occurred in 10 to the 8th years ago. And that's a pretty long time ago. I find it interesting that there was a dark age before we had light. Here are 3 big numbers that come from physics and the understanding of light waves. The top one is something by 10 to the 84th, and then this other one, 10 to the 18th, and the one at the bottom, 1.4 times 10 to the 10th. Now, the one at the bottom, everybody should recognize as the age of the universe, or the time since the Big Bang. These other 2 are less well known. The one in the middle is the minimum age in years of the lifetime of a photon. And notice that it's much, much longer than the age of the universe. And so photons, the photons that we're seeing or that we're getting hit with now, some of them are billions of years old, could exist for billions more years than what they are. So we're never going to run out of photons. The top number is the number of photons in the universe that was calculated in 2018, 4 times 10 to the 84th. That tells us that there's so many photons in the universe that we're not going to have any problem with running out of photons. This leads us to how do we detect these photons, and it's Galileo. I love this quote. I think that taste, odors, colors, and so on are no more than mere names so far as the object in which we place them is concerned, and that they reside only in the consciousness. Hence, if the living creatures were removed, all these qualities would be wiped away and annihilated. We wouldn't have any color vision, any smell, any other senses that we have, unless we were creatures, and unless we have creatures that have the biological mechanisms to detect these light waves. And it is a light sensing organ. It is a light sensing organs of organisms that do the hard work of capturing this physical information that is at the heart of brightness and color. And without these organs, we would have no brightness or no color. And we would not be able to observe the origin of the universe or the Big Bang. And we wouldn't be able to even think about color and brightness. And color then becomes one of the more important fuels for natural selection, which is the next vignette. Color vision on our planet ranges over a very, very small set of wavelengths, from about 400 or so, a little bit less than 400 to 700. And the way that organisms on this planet detect the wavelengths is through these proteins called opsins. And everyone knows that we have 4 opsins, but opsin number and opsin kinds vary in nature among species. And so you see on the left a shrimp, a shrimp that has a large number of opsin genes in its genome, Neogondactyli Erstedii. And this manid shrimp has such a large range of opsins that it can see colors that vertebrates can't see. And that's because of the large number of opsins. I want to show you another really interesting organism, Tripedalia cystophora. This is what's called a box jelly. And this box jelly has 24 light detecting organisms, but it has 4 that are relatively big and complex. They actually even have lenses, much like the lenses we have in our eyes. And these lenses are always pointing upwards to the surface, even when the animal is swimming upside down. So this box jelly doesn't have a brain. It has a neural network. And it appears to be an isolated appearance of advanced light detecting organs in this lineage, in the Cnidarian lineage. And the light detectors that this box jelly have evolved are more than likely not the same thing as our eyes. They're not the same thing as an insect eye, an octopus eye, and certainly not the same as our eye. And this pattern of gaining and losing light detecting organisms in animals is somewhat peculiar in evolution and somewhat common in evolution. It has a very important explanation, and that is that eyes on this planet have evolved at least 25 times, maybe an order of magnitude more times than that. And on the right, we see a diagram of our eye, which is can be shown to be very different from a lot of these other eyes. At the bottom, I show that color detection and light detection can be thought of as a variation in color detection and light detection can be thought of as on 2 axes, eye structure and opsins. And with all of this eye structure and all of the different opsins, there's a large amount of variation that organisms on our planet can that they actually have for detecting light and detecting colors. So there's many ways to skin the cat here. There is in all organisms, there is a general genetic toolbox of genes that code for the production of eyes, and there's a general genetic toolbox that codes for the opsins that can detect different wavelengths. And what organisms have done with their genomes is they've mixed and matched these over evolutionary time to produce solutions to detecting light and detecting color that are broad and incredibly diverse. This is vignette 3 about how organisms use color. And I point to Darwin and Wallace here. Darwin, when he went into the field on the Beagle, he took with him Werner's nomenclature of colors. And for those of you who don't know what this nomenclature is about, there was a book where the colors were hand painted into the book, and the colors were used to create precision for Darwin in his description of animals and plants while he was on the Beagle. And this book was very, very important to him, and it allowed Darwin to describe the color of things in great, great detail. And color, it turns out, was one of the main things that tipped him off to natural selection, which is his great discovery. Wallace is often referred to as a co-discoverer of natural selection. And in his writing, he traveled to a lot of really neat tropical places. And in his writing, he recognized color as one of the main drivers of natural selection. And in one of his books, he mentions the following as kinds of things that natural selection affects: protective colors, warning colors, mimicry, sexual colors, typical colors, and attractive colors in flowers and fruits. He actually outlined this as the research program for color in evolutionary biology, and a recent paper in Science magazine actually reiterated these. The kind of the research program for color amongst scientists today are very similar to what Wallace outlined in the late 1800s. Together, they concluded that color was susceptible to natural selection. This was a major theme of their writing on color and evolution. And Darwin thought that because color was correlated with traits involved in survival, that color itself would be subject to natural selection. And the modern research program, as I said just previously on color in nature, is not terribly different from the one Wallace described. There is another person who has thought about this in a biological context, and it's the famous cartoonist Gary Larson. Larson has more or less, drawn cartoons that coincide almost exactly with Wallace's areas of research in color. This is one of my favorites. It's a house nature says do not touch. I would particularly stay away from the guy with the bazooka. I don't think I've ever seen anybody like that in New York City, but pretty close. This is what it is in nature, aposematism, and we see two examples of a warning coloration in a beetle and a warning coloration in a poison tree frog. This cartoon is about when animal mimicry breaks down, and the two-point buck in the hunter's outfit is mimicking the hunter, but the mimicry is broken down because the buck is speaking garbage, and the hunter is going to figure this out. So the second thing that Larson hones in on is mimicry. And we have amazing examples of mimicry. Perhaps one of the most amazing examples in insects are the heliconius butterflies that you see on the slide. Every one of the top are one species, and then the next one below is a second species, showing how close and how precise the mimicry can be. When the monster came, Lola, like the peppered moth and the Arctic hare, remained motionless and undetected. Harold, of course, was immediately devoured. And this represents camouflage. Camouflage is a major way that organisms cheat natural selection. And on the right, we see a praying mantis that has not only mimicked the shape of leaves, but also mimicked the color down to the color of the venation. So color is very important for camouflage. And then finally, Nick, the fireflies across the street, I think they're mooning us. And indeed, those fireflies would be mooning them if their bioluminescent abdomens were being excited. And we have the last category, fluorescence, iridescence, bioluminescence, and an example of iridescence at the top with the beetle, bioluminescence with the jellies, and a case of fluorescence with the second set of jellies. Vignette 4 is more or less about culture and about how we think about colors in our cultures. This is a wonderful exhibit created by Angela Das, who I understand is speaking later in the conference. Angela, as you'll see, and I recommend that you attend her talk, as you'll see, she's taken pictures and she's matched these pictures with what she calls Pantones. And these Pantones are skin color shades. And this is an example of 9 Pantones. In one of the posters that I viewed yesterday, there was a really interesting poster on the number of tones, or the number of Pantones or shades of human skin color. And depending on the method that you use, there's anywhere from about 5,000 to 10,000 different skin tones, skin colors that humans have. The skin is our largest organ of our body, but it's also the most variable organ of our body. It's an amazing variable organ throughout humanity. Now, skin color is marginally, if at all, connected to other phenotypes, that is, other than hair and color. And the modern basis of racism, that is skin color, has little, if anything, to do with the traits that races often associate with groups of people that they're coming down on. And these other traits are things like intelligence, demeanor, athletic ability, responsibility, social involvement, crime, and the like. None of these traits are associated with skin color, and hence none of these traits should be looked at as traits that are racial traits. Only racists will do that. Skin color has a complex genetic architecture, and as I pointed out, there are many types of skin tones, types of skin color that tell us that there are many ways to make white skin and many ways to make black skin, and every tone of skin in between. And these involve incredibly complex genetic interactions. We may be able to decipher these interactions, but I suggest that such knowledge will simply split us into further and further smaller groups, and that will mean nothing in a biological context. Skin color is adaptive and has undergone rapid and fairly directed evolution, and this rapidness has enhanced this trait of skin color to be very different amongst humans. Other traits, such as the ones that racists harp on, are less prone to the directional inclinal selection that pigmentation has experienced, and this renders the racist arguments moot. On the other hand, culture is very quick. Cultural evolution is very quick, and is more aligned with the rapid rise of skin color. And cultural context of how humans deal with skin color and race is pretty much the way that we should be doing it. And the importance lies in using culture to explore and explain our differences, and not some underlying fallacious biological basis. So the color of our skin is a thing that we should look at and try to understand through a cultural context. To conclude, I wanted to bring my colleague Ian Tattersall into it. And he once wrote, "We are the only species on this planet that can think about thinking. And in doing so, we create mental constructs of alternate versions of the world. In the same way, we are the only organisms on this planet that can think about color. Other organisms respond to colors through natural selection, but they don't think about it. Other organisms can't create mental constructs around color. We are quite different. We can create mental constructs with it, with color. Color is a critical part of completing those alternate versions of the world that must be important to our understanding our consciousness. Color is one of the main ways that we think, one of the main ways that we think about consciousness, and one of the main ways that we can begin to understand consciousness. And color and how we place it into a natural context on this planet is a major key to understanding our consciousness. I hope what I've done is given you some a broad understanding of the importance of color in natural history and in the natural world. It's a topic that we at the American Museum of Natural History have been very, very interested in. Almost every scientist in the museum has color as part of their research program. I just wanted to thank the organizers for inviting me, and I hope there's enough time for me to take questions.